Hello and welcome to Friday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and today we are going to try a puzzle by ProwlingTiger, this new constructor publishing puzzles on Logic Masters Germany, and all the puzzles are getting great reviews. We think we've done 2 on the channel so far. They've both been brilliant. You can see this one involves, it looks like we're going to have to find X, so I'll read the instructions in a moment. A couple of things I wanted to mention first, in fact 3 things. The first thing is that THERMO Sudoku, our new app, is out on Android. It's out on App Store. It isn't yet out on Steam. We've asked them to release it. They haven't done it yet. I'm sure they'll do it soon. But do have a look at it. We've been absolutely delighted with the comments that we've received so far. If you have bought the game and you do have the time, we would be really grateful if you are enjoying it, if you could give it some stars either on the App Store or Android, just as it seems to get promoted more by Google and Apple if people do write about it and give it good reviews. So yeah, we'd be most grateful if anyone could do that. Do try Scott Strosahl's Junior Puzzle Hunt. In fact, I've had quite a bit of feedback from juniors who've tried the hunt, but also quite a bit of feedback from adults who've enjoyed it. There is a reason adults are enjoying it. I won't tell you what that is, but do have a look. It's free. It's on Patreon at the moment. There's a link under the video. And finally, yeah, we're going to be in the Guardian newspaper here in the UK tomorrow, believe it or not. Let me show you. We're on the Guardian website at the moment. There's little old me on the right-hand side. And I will tell you what Mark's comment was when he saw this. He said they've managed to put you next to the only celebrity you look good next to, which is a little bit harsh, but made me laugh. Anyway, let's get back to the puzzle. And let me read you the rules. Now, where are the rules? Here they are. Right. Normal Sudoku rules apply. The number inside a cage represents the sum of all digits within that cage. Digits cannot repeat inside the same cage, so that's just normal killer Sudoku rules. The arrows outside the grid denote the sum of the cells along the indicated diagonal. In this puzzle, X is an integer and needs to be discovered. So you can see if we study this grid, there is X. X is appearing everywhere. It's in cage totals, it's in diagonal totals, and there's only one given digit. So this should be a challenge. Do have a go. Click on the link under the video to play along. And with that, let's get cracking. Now, where do we start? Well, we've got to try and narrow down the value of X. So X has got to be even. I can see that from this X divided by 2 clue in the corner. X. In fact, there really isn't very much information in this puzzle. Let me just get my head around this. A 43 cage here. So the 43 cage is 8 cells big. Right, that's interesting straight away. That means there is no 2 inside that cage. How do I know that? Well, it's using this rule that there can't be a repeated digit in a cage. If we think about this box, for example, that box would contain all the digits from 1 to 9, and it would add up to 45, therefore. So an 8-cell cage that adds up to 43 must be missing the 2. That means there's a 2 in one of those cells. Don't actually think that's going to be enough to hone down or narrow down the options. One thing I can see is, look, I can sum these. I can get the value in terms of X of all those 6 squares. So 3X. So yeah, so 3X over 2 plus X over 2 is just 2X. Plus another X is 3X. So these 6 cells add to 3 lots of X. Now that's quite interesting, isn't it? So that means that X is even, and X has to be higher than 6, because if X is 6, 3X is 18, and I can't make 6 cells add to 18 if they've all got to be different digits. The minimum you can make 6 cells add to would be 21. 6 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. So X is 8 or bigger. And I wonder if we can go in the other direction actually. So let's think about yeah, we can. So let's imagine x is 14. If x is 14, 3 lots of x is 42. There's no way 6 cells can add to 42 because they'd be missing these 3 cells. The minimum I could make those 3 cells is 6. So the maximum I could make 9 or 6 cells would be 39. So x, okay, x is 8, 10, or 12. Now okay, so x is not 12 because... No, x can't be 12 because we know that one of these sums, either the x or the x plus 1, includes a 2. So x is either 8 or 10 now. And I bet x isn't 8. And why do I think it's not 8? Well, it's because if x was 8, as a constructor, I would have tried my absolute hardest to make this cage and this cage label them x rather than 8. So I bet you x is going to be 10, but I don't think that's not logical. That's just the way I think about things. In fact, let's just look at those cages. They add to 16, so we actually know what they've got in them. That's the only way of making 16 in 5 digits is with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, and that is helpful. That is helpful because if we know that these are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, can the 6 ever go in this 8 cage? Well, no, it can't, because then it would have to be accompanied by 2 1s. So the 6 goes there, and that must be 2, 6. That must be 1, 3, and 4. So these squares are 5, 7, 8, and 9. This square is x over 2, so if x is 8 or 10, that's 4 or 5. This is 8 or 10. That's got loads of options. That's going to have even more options then, isn't it? So, yes, that's got loads of options. So we must have to use this somehow. 2, 6. 1 second, sorry about this. No. I've got the main diagonal is 5x over 2. X over 2, so that's either going to be 20 or 25. That is a little bit restricted, isn't it? Because that can't be a small number. So ordinarily, what would be the minimum we could make this diagonal add up to? Well, if we input 1, 2, and 3 in each of those cells, we'd have 6 in each box, so we'd have 18. So there is not much freedom there, is there? Yeah, that's it. That's it. Look, this square, because the minimum that can be is a 5, and because there is a 2 in this box, the minimum I could make those 2 squares add up to would be 1 and 3, and those 3 cells now add to 9. Now, if x is equal to 8, these cells have to sum up to 20. But if they're 9, that means these 6 cells have to add up to 11, and that's impossible, because even if I make this 1, 2, and 3, and this 1, 2, and 3, that adds up to 12, so we have found x. X is 10, which is, well, that is what we suspected, so x is 10. Now what do we do with that? That's 5, so I finally got a digit, only after 10 minutes or something. That's not 5 now. 5 is interesting because 5 can't go in a domino x now. Oh, in fact, look, I can do arithmetic on... Right, we can use the 43 cage now, and the fact that we know the value of these 4 cells, because these 4 cells are going to be 10 and 11, that's 21, plus 43 is 64. So if I know that all the yellow cells add up to 64, but I also know that those 9 cells add up to 45, because they're going to be the numbers from 1 to 9. So I know that these cells have got to add up to 19. But the problem with that is that there are lots of ways of making 19 in 3 cells, even if you can't repeat a digit. It feels to me like this is where I need to focus, though. Ah, yes, it is where I need to focus. Look at this. There's an X-wing. So, where does the 5 go in this row of the grid? We said that you can't put a 5 in a domino that sums to 10. So the 5 could never go in any of those positions. It can't go there. That's got an 8 in it. It can't go there because there's a 5. So the 5 is definitely in one of those 2 squares. Now look at this row. Where does the 5 go? We've got the same pattern. This 5 rules the roost over all those squares. You can't put 5s in dominoes. So we get an X-wing on 5s. Now that means this square can't be... Let's just run through the logic of X-wings for those of you new to the channel and maybe not come across this pattern before. Because I've managed to lock 5 into one of 2 positions in this row, and one of 2 positions in this row, that has a restriction on the columns. What's that? How does that restriction work? Well, let's think about it. We know in the finished solution, for certain, there will either be a 5 here or a 5 here. Let's imagine the 5 was here in the finished solution. Where would the 5 be in row 7? Well, it couldn't be here anymore. It would have to be in this cell. And you can see now, in this situation, we could eliminate 5s from all of these squares. And you may say, well, that's all very well, but that was on the presumption that this square was a 5. What if this isn't a 5? Well, there's a thing about an X-wing is there's only 2 options. Either this is a 5 or this is a 5. Now, if this is a 5, where are we going to put the 5 in row 7? It's going to have to go there. And we get the same thing. We can still remove 5 as an option from all of those cells. So we get to remove a 5 from this cell. Now, that is helpful or not helpful? Oh, no. No, I'm making this far too complicated. This is very clever. Let's take a step back. I mean, it's deriving... This is a cool pattern and everything, but we don't need it. We just need to think about this square. Can that square be a 5? And the answer is no, it can't be, because, let me get rid of the colouring. If this square is a 5, look at this 43 cage. We know it's got a 5 in it. The only digit it's missing is a 2. But if I put the 5 here, I can't put a 5 in the 43 cage anymore. So this can't be a 5. And that being the case, that means that's the only place in row 4 that can be a 5. So we get a 5. We can eliminate a 5 from here. This domino now can't include 3, 7, 2, 8 or 1, 9. So that's got to be 4, 6. So that square's got to be a 5 because of the X-wing, of course. These 4 squares are 1, 2, 3, and 5. This one can't be a 5 because of the 5. Actually, that one can't be a 2 either because it's in the 43 cage. And that one can't be a 1 because remember what we said? We said that these cells outside of this box have to sum up to 19. So there's no way I can put a 1 here because those two squares would both have to equal 9, and that's not going to work. So this is a 3. None of those is a 3 now. That's not a 5. These two squares are 7 and 9 because they need to add to 16. This is absolutely lovely, isn't it? This domino gets fixed now, look, because it can't be 2, 8, and it can't be 3, 7, it can't be 1, 9. That's 4 and 6. This one could still be 1, 9 or 3, 7, I think. Oh, hang on. Where do I put a 3 in this box? The 3 here means that I can't put it in those squares because I'd be repeating the 3 in the cage. So the 3 must be in one of those cells. And that must fix this, surely. Yes, it does. If I try and put the 2 in this cage now, we know it would be 2 and 8. But I know that this one would then include a 3, and it would have to equal 11. Well, that would mean they would have to repeat the 8. So the 3 must go here. The 2 must go here. This must be 3, 7. That must be 2, 9. That's not 9 anymore. That's not 7 anymore. Ah, that fixes the 2 down there. 5. Two must be in one of those cells. 3 must be in one of these cells. And now I'm stuck again. Okay, let's have another look at this. Ah, now this, yeah, let's have a look down here. So now those squares have to add up to 3x. So 3x is 30. These have to add up to 15. But look, I've got 5 digits already in row 7. So these squares are some combination of 1, 2, 8, and 9. So these 3 squares are the interesting ones, I think. We know these have to add up to 15. Right, yeah. Well, so this can't be 1, 2 in this domino here, because that would mean that square would have to equal 12. It can't be 8, 9, because that's already greater than 15. Yeah, okay, and you can't make this domino equal 10, because that will put a 5 in here. So this is not 1, 9, it's not 2, 8. This is either 1 and 8, which would make that a 6, or it's 2 and 9, which makes that a 4. Does that help us? That rules 4, 6 out of those 2 squares, but we knew that anyway. Rules 4, 6 out of those 2 squares. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Look, this is it. Because now we know that this combination has to not equal 10. So it has to include either 1 and 8, which removes from these 2 positions 1, 9 and 2, 8 as the possibilities for equaling 10. We know 4, 6 is also impossible. But if this isn't 1 and 8, it's 2 and 9, and that has the same effect on this domino because it removes 2, 8 and 1, 9 again. So this has to be 3, 7. And you can see this 3 means we can place that. That means that's a 7. Is that all I get from that? Maybe it is. 4, 6 and 8 into these squares. Oh, that one can't be 8. So there's a 4, 6 pair now, so that one must be 8. These squares have got to be 1, 4 and 6 now. 1, 4, 6. this this can only be 8, 9 to complete this row. Yeah, now this square, that can't be an 8 or a 9, because we know that there's an 8 or a 9 in one of these two positions. There's an 8 or a 9 in this square, so that's enough 8s and 9s in the row. That's got to be a 1 or a 2. And no, that total's not going to help us. So what do we do next? Hell of a clever puzzle though, isn't it? It really is. It's amazing that a puzzle with just these few X clues can be resolvable. 2, 6, 1, 9, 3, 7. I feel like I'm missing something obvious here. What is it? Oh, no, is it this again? Let's just have a look at this diagonal, because I've got 2 5s on it now. And this has to equal 25. So if this was a 9, it just breaks, doesn't it? Because that would make these 3 squares equal 19. The minimum I could make those 3 squares would be 6. So that's already 25, and I still haven't even filled in those ones. So this is just 2. That's 9. That's quite nice, because these 9s now, where do you put a 9 in one of those 3 squares? Well, I can't put it in a cage that adds up to 10 with 3 digits, so that's a 9. 6. 8 must be in one of those 2 squares, because 8 also can't go in this box. Oh, and there's an X here, look. So 8 can't go there, because then those 2 would have to equal 1. So 8 gets shoved in the corner up at the top. So there's an 8 in one of those 2 squares. That can't be an 8. Let's get rid of that just in case it's going to help us. Oh, and I should come back to this again. Let's have another look at this. So one thing is, I was just thinking about what's the minimum value of this. Oh, why have I got 2s pencil marked in there? That's complete nonsense. I've already got 2s there. Oh, well, I haven't used the logic because I've got the 2s pencil marked in the right place up there. So, So I've got... I can't put 2 into this diagonal. So I know that this is a minimum of 1 and 3, but no, it can't be 1 and 3, because if I put 1 and 3 here, what do I put into this 10 cage? There would be no value, because I couldn't use 1, 9, 2, 7, 2, 8, 3, 7, or 4, 6. So this total on this diagonal is at least 10. So I've got 10 plus 5 plus 2, that's 17. So that can't be a 6, because then I absolutely break that. I'm not actually sure whether it can be a 4 either. If it was 4, so 10, 17, 21, no, 4 also doesn't work. That has to be a 1. And so now I've got 7. Sorry, 8 plus 10 is 18. So this either has to equal 7 or it's got to equal 6, and this has to be 1 higher than 10. That's the only 2 possibilities. Oh, no, that doesn't work. This can't be 1 higher. you can't make this equal 11 because there's already a 2 in the cage. So because we've got 5 there, the only ways of getting to 11 now, we need these 2 squares to add up to 6. That's got to be 1, 5 or 2, 4, and it's not possible. So this has to add up to 7, which means it has to equal 1, 2 and 4, and this has to equal 10. So this has to be 1, 4 into those positions. Wow. Now, that square, look, can't be a 4 because that would place a 6 here. Oh, and it can't be a 2. That would place an 8 here. That's a 1. There's no 1 there anymore. That must be a 9. So there's no 9 there either. In fact, that fixes that as an 8 at the bottom. So that's a 2. That's a 1. That's a 9. We know these add to 15, so that has to be a 4, that has to be 6. And now we're going to cook with gas. We're getting somewhere now. So we've now used all 3 of these clues. We've used all the clues in the bottom of the grid. We've used this clue fully. This x has to be 3, 7 now because it can't be 1, 9, 2, 8 or 4, 6. 3 at the bottom means we get the 3 and the 7 placed. There must be a 7 in one of those 3 positions. This is a 1, 4 pair. So this must be an 8, 9 pair into those 2 squares. I feel like I should be able to resolve that, but I can't immediately see how to do it. These 2 squares. Ah, no, where do I put a 1? Where do I put a 1 in row 4? This 1 rules that square out. That's got to be a 1. That places a 1 in the 10 cage at the top. This square's got to be a 2 to complete the row. The 2 is lovely. That fixes the 2 and the 4. Oh, and something else that 2 does. Look. That 2 pincers that X cage, that 10 cage there. So this 10 cage cannot contain a 2 anymore. Now, it also can't contain a 3, look, because we've not placed a 3 yet in column 3. So we know the 3 is in one of those cells, so it's not in this box. So this, if it doesn't contain a 2 or a 3, it's got to be 1, 4, 5. And I'm not sure. Well, we know that one isn't 1. Oh, and we've got a 4, 6 pair in column 2. So it's actually the 4 is not in those positions. This is a 4. That fixes the 4, 6 pair. And 1 feels to me like I can resolve that. But let's carry on. Well, look, because we can fill in the options for these 3 squares. Look, these 3 squares have got to be 2, 3 and 6. So 6, 1, 3 is impossible. That can't be a 6. That can't be a 2. So if this is a 2, that would be a 7. That looks like that does work. If this is a 3, it would have to go 3, 1, 6. That doesn't work. Or 3, 5, 2, which also doesn't work. So the 2 must be in one of those positions. So this is in fact a 7. 1, 2, 5. This square is, so this is a 3, 6 pair now. The 2 must go there in box 2. And we should, the 7 is nice. That fixes the 7 and the 3. There's a 3, 8 pair in box 4 now. And these 2 squares are 2 and 5. And I think we've now used all the clues. So we just need to do Sudoku efficiently from here, and hopefully we will crack the puzzle. You can see we can place the 4 into that square. We can place the 1 and the 3 as well because of the 1 on this side. That fixes the 3 and the 6. Should be something we can do. We can get rid of that 7. Just wondering if we've got any hidden triples anywhere else. Let's have a look at row 3 of the grid. We've got to place 5, 6 and 8, so I'm hoping we'll... it's not great. Actually, yeah, we can place a 5 here, look. So there's a 6, 8 pair now left in those 2 squares. One of those 2 is a 5. One of these 2 has got to be a 3. One of these 2 has to be a 5. Come on, we should be able to do this. Let's have a look at this column. Or maybe, no, actually this one. We've got more digits in it. 1, 3 and 4. So the 1s are in one of those 2 squares. That square can only be a 3, look. This is a 1, 4 pair. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. So the 8s are in one of those 2 cells. The 6 is in one of these 2 squares. Don't yet know enough about 7s and 9s, so there's something else I'm missing here, because otherwise I'm worried I'm not going to be able to disambiguate everything that's going on. Let's have another look at this column. We still need to place... that's a 3, 5 pair, so that's quite helpful. So now these 2 have got to be 6 and 7, so they can't include the 3. Good. So that's a 6, that's a 7, that's a 7. This must be an 8, that should be a 9. These 2 squares are 6 and 7 now. 9 must be here to complete that row. That's not 7, obviously we've got 5, 6 and 8, that shifts to 6. This is a 5, 8 pair. And what is it? It's this 6, look at that. That 6 is going to disambiguate this whole puzzle because this 1, 4 pair is offset. That is absolutely lovely as a finish, isn't it? Look, 6, 4, 4, 1, 1, 4. Let's carry on with that, hopefully. 1, 5. 5, 8, 8, 9, 9, 7, 7, 6, 6, 2. Oops, 2, 5. We'll correct that in a minute. 5, 3, 3, 8. Check. And that is how to solve another beautiful puzzle from ProwlingTiger. Not easy. Not easy. I was a bit slow, I felt, towards the end of that, but I was quite pleased with finding X as quickly as I did. Let me know in the comments how you got on. I read all the comments to all the videos, so even if we don't reply to you, we get a great deal of pleasure out of that. I hope you guys enjoyed the puzzle, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.